Hello, Judith. Nice to see you.
Hello, lovely to see you too.
I am trying to snatch a few minutes of your time today to talk about what happened in lockdown for you personally. We're here in the Art Salon. I've got a couple of pieces here on the table, and there's one behind me on the wall that you created as part of a larger collection called the Emerge series. And, you know, quite rightly so, we have been trying to emerge our way out of the lockdown. 2020 didn't start, well, it started with more promise, didn't it? I think people thought new decade, new excitement, and then of course the pandemic's hit. And this has hit people in many different ways, and artists particularly have either struggled or been able to respond. How has it been for you? And I mean, clearly you've been able to work. How has that sort of inspired and shown through your work? Tell me about your experience in lockdown and what's come out of it for you.
Right. Well, I am very lucky in that I'm able to continue working during lockdown. I have a lovely studio, which is a fabulous space, and I can go there and shut the door and be secure and socially distanced without a problem. And I have found that the concept of isolation and social distancing, although it is a very difficult time and a very heartbreaking time for a lot of people, for me personally it's been a artistically inspirational time, because I feel there has been a need for people to see work which is going to console them. I found that in particular watercolour has been the medium which has really lent itself to portraying the concept of isolation. And that has meant that I've been down in the studio most days producing work which is my interpretation of the concept of isolation and what that means in various different ways.
Because we are a herd, aren't we? Humans belong together and we belong as part of nature. And there's been many discussions during lockdown about how far away from nature we have moved through commerce, through the development of our civilizations over the years, through industry. And this has forced us all, hasn't it, to re-look and realise our mortality and the mortality around us. So we have looked for nurture. I think you're right. I think the watercolours, I mean, I think as you can see here, are very comforting, they're not confrontational and they're not angry. But you haven't shied away from the darkness. I mean, you haven't, it's not chocolate box, it's not sweet, you haven't shied away. How have you achieved that balance in by using your colours and by using something you're very well known for now is light, the luminosity, as I think you've described it. How have you used that to not be too coy and sweet, if you see? Saccharine, I think, is the word I'm looking for.
Well, it's, as I said before, it is such a strange time that none of us have ever been through it like this, anything like this before. And there are various different aspects that I think need to be shown in paintings. First of all, the change to nature during isolation. The night sky is transformed. The feeling of peace in nature. There are all things that can come across in the painting, but at the same time there is the concept of loneliness, which so many people are going through, and just the idea of a single light on the horizon, for example, can just portray a concept of loneliness, but at the same time can remind people that there are other people out there, you know, that we're not completely on our own, that a single light on the horizon is somebody else in another house who's probably also on their own, who also needs consoling. And these are all ideas that I've been trying to put across in my work.
And how have you reached out? Have you used all these wonderful technologies like Zoom? And I mean, because you are a mother, you've got two beautiful children who are not at home anymore. So, I mean, how has it been on a very personal level, how has it been? Do you worry about them? Do they worry about you? Has it changed your relationships with those around you this period?
Definitely, very much so. I think everyone would say the same. It's a very worrying time for everybody, and we've used Zoom a lot to keep in touch with the children, but it's hard for them. It's extraordinarily hard for young people at the moment, and I really do worry about that whole younger generation. It must feel very, very difficult to be isolated from your peers, to feel that there are going to be employment problems in the future. So everybody needs consolation, and I have been reaching out to all my friends, particularly the elderly, just every so often, hi, are you all right? Type concept. It's a very difficult time.
But I mean, that's a beautiful thing to come out of it, isn't it? And I think artists being able to articulate in a much more permanent fashion does serve as a reminder for us that we should just check on our neighbours, possibly, and more often than we have done.
But I think also art serves a purpose in saying that. I think that one of the things that I'm trying to say is we are all feeling the same. If people who are lonely, be consoled by the fact that everybody is feeling the same. We are all in this together, I think, is the underlying message that I'm trying to put across.
So during the actual painting, when you were actually making that mark on the paper, was it tough emotionally? Because you are trying to articulate quite dark and sometimes sad and sometimes somber thoughts, along with trying to offer hope and comfort and nurture. Was it an emotionally exhausting experience for you, or was it quite liberating, quite therapeutic to be able to make those marks? How did you feel emotionally when you were creating?
I think it was definitely therapeutic for me, but then art is therapy for a lot of people. But it was certainly therapeutic for me to be able to produce these paintings, to express the way I was feeling, and also to try and give hope and comfort to people at the same time, which is a way of getting through it, really, is to be able to reach out.
So do you think going forward, that connection that you have made sort of to global humanity, really, the fundamental things that make humans tick, do you think that's something you will continue to explore professionally in your work going, because we've not finished, have we? For us in the UK, we have come through that first phase, but there's no one in saying that this is a golden path ahead of us. This is going to be tough. So is it your intention to continue following the mood of the nation, of the world? Is that how you want to continue, or are you happy to leave it there?
No, I'm certainly aiming to continue with this concept of following the mood of the nation, and people remain frightened. It's not going to go away, as you say, although we will move on to the next phase, there is still fear and anxiety out there, and there are still people who are lonely and afraid to leave their houses. So there will still need to be a way of reaching out to people and offering comfort.
Yes. Well, I mean, and this collection, you priced at a very affordable level. They run from, I think, 250 to 350, somewhere in that bracket. Is that because you would like to offer it at all levels? Is that quite important to you as an artist, to not be elitist, not to be, well, it can be perceived as being elitist, can't it? To be able to offer smaller works maybe that are more accessible by some of the young that you're talking about, who aren't going to have enormous amounts of money, that, they may not have jobs, but equally people who are maybe more vulnerable aren't bringing income in that would allow them to walk into a gallery and spend huge amounts. So is that important for you, to be able to get that out there to people? It
is very much so. It is part of the overall message of reaching out to people in these difficult times. And this is a little sort of a message that I'm giving to people, that, you know, we're all in this together, and there's no point in doing that and charging enormous amounts of money that people can't afford. That's not the underlying message that I'm trying to put across.
So for those of the people that don't know, you did start life as a nurse. And you cared and you healed, and you've come back to that point now. That's obviously a fundamental part of your personality, part of your nature. So we very much look forward to seeing what the next collection brings, and I personally very much look forward to being able to go back to showing you internationally and taking you to far-flung places, because I don't think these sort of messages and emotions and considerations are particularly localized. I think we are all, this is one of the extraordinary things, is the world suddenly feels very small. So your voice is very big. Thank you, Judith, very much, and we look forward to seeing what comes next.
Thank you very much. Nice to talk to you.
And you.